Okay, what does it mean to solve an equation? What it means is, one of the things it means, find the value of x, okay, or whatever variable it is that you're solving for. So, for example, if I have a linear equation, I'm only going to have one value for x. In quadratic equations, you have two values for x, okay, because it crosses x twice. The other thing that it could mean is find x-intercepts. Okay, so like I just said, if you have a quadratic equation, okay, it's going to cross the x-axis twice. Okay, or you could have the possibility of having a quadratic that doesn't even cross the x-axis. And that situation is called no solution. So you either have two solutions or zero. Okay? And the way you get to those solutions is what we've been doing, which is either factor, complete the square, or quadratic formula. Okay? Factoring is always going to be the easiest. Okay? Let's do that here. As you can see on number 1, it's already factored. So set your factors equal to 0. Okay? X equals -3, or 2x minus 1 equals, 2x equals 1, x equals 1/2. Okay, so what does that mean in the notes today? We just solved the quadratic equation. So it's going to cross the x-axis over here at -3, and then again at +1/2. So my graph is going to look roughly like something like that. Okay? Now, in a few minutes, we'll get more into the stricter details, like where's the vertex and all that kind of stuff. But for now, where did it cross x? That's all we really want to know right now. Okay? On this next one, number 2, yes? Yes, quadratics will always form a parabola. Okay? All right, on number 2, we have the difference of two square numbers, so when I factor it, okay, x plus 8, x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, so factor this one. Okay, so that means that x is going to be -8 and x is going to be +8. Okay, so this parabola is going to cross my x-axis at -8 and at +8. Yeah. Okay, on number 3, okay, we want to go ahead and factor here. Since the coefficient of x squared is a 1, all I need to look at is the 21. Okay, the factors of 21 that also make 10 are 7 and 3. So x plus 7 times x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, that means x is going to be -7. X plus 3, x is going to be -3. -7 plus 7 is 0. -3 plus 3 is 0. Okay, so again, we found the solution to this quadratic at the 2 points -7 and -3. So this parabola is way over here to the left. It doesn't even cross the y-axis on this picture. It may go way up. That's another detail we're going to look at as well, the y-intercept, here in a few minutes. So roughly, the solutions are -7 and -3. Okay. On number 4, since we have a 2 for the coefficient, we will need to smile about it. Okay, 2 times negative 5. And then the factors of negative 10 that make 9. 10 times negative 1. Okay, so make sure you understand that we're going to replace the 9x with the 10 and the negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to put down 2x squared first, and then I'm going to put minus 5 down next. Strategically, I want to put my 10x, and my negative 1x next to the numbers that they have a common factor. So 10x is going to go with the 5, since they have a 5 in common. And everything has a 1 in common, so I can put minus 1x here. Okay, so just in case you forgot, these two numbers here, negative 1x and 10x, adds up to be 9x. All we did is replace them. Okay, so now we're going to actually pull out the common factor of 1x right here. So x times 2x minus 1. Okay, and then on these two numbers, I'm going to pull out the common factor of 5. So 5 times 2x minus 1. And so what you want to happen is for the numbers in parentheses to be the same. Okay, so my final factors would be 2x minus 1, of course, because they have that in common. And then these two numbers here, x plus 5, is the other factor. Okay, so just to review what we did here, I took 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0, and found the factors of negative 10, which were 10x and negative 1x. All right, and then rewrote it. I didn't factor anything yet. I replaced 9x with those two factors, and then factored out a common factor. Okay, so if I go ahead and solve it, 2x minus 1 equals 0, 2x equals 1, x equals 1/2. So far I know my parabola is going to cross the x-axis at 1/2. And then the other one, x plus 5 equals 0, x equal negative 5. It's going to cross the x-axis there at negative 5. So what that looks like is this. Here's your y, here's your x. I have negative 5 over here, positive 1/2 here. So roughly, that's what the parabola should look like if I graph it. What if you cannot factor the equation? Okay, in this case, you're going to either use completing the square, or the quadratic formula. Either one will work, okay, but I will caution you on completing the square. You need to make sure you have a coefficient of 1 to make completing the square an easy choice. Otherwise, you'll have to divide everything through. Okay, so like example on number 7, if I was going to complete the square, I would have to divide everything by 5. And that's going to cause 7/5 and 3/5. Some people don't like fractions. So in that case, I would suggest quadratic formula instead. Okay? Yeah. So let's go up here. I'll do 1 completing the square just to show you that it does work. Okay? So if I complete the square, I need to make sure that 3 is on, the constant is on the side by itself, so that gives me x squared minus 6x equals negative 3. Okay, and then we're going to take negative 6 divided by 2, and that gives me negative 3. And then I'm going to square that number, and that gives me positive 9. Okay, now this should sound familiar. We did this with the circle equation. Okay, all right, so you divide your b. Remember, if your quadratic is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, okay, you're always going to take whatever b is and divide it in half and then square it. Okay, in this case, b was -6. So that gives us x squared minus 6x plus the 9 equals -3 plus the 9. Okay?
What do you mean about not being
The ax squared plus bx. Anytime you have a quadratic, it's written in standard form, or if it's not, you need to put it in this order so that you can tell me what a is, what b is, and what c is. Okay, and you need to know that regardless of completing the square or quadratic formula. You need to know a, b, and c. Okay, so what we did here is completed the square with a 9. A 9 is a square number, right? And remember back over here when we divided by 2, that's the number that goes in parentheses. Okay, -3 squared is 9. All right, and then -3 plus 9 is 6. Okay, so the last step here is to take the square root of both sides. So that gives us x minus 3 equal to the positive negative square root of 6. Okay, and then to get x by itself, we're going to add 3 to both sides. Okay, and since 6 is not a perfect square, okay, and we cannot reduce it, the answer is going to be x equals 3 plus the square root of 6, and x equal 3 minus the square root of 6. Those are the two places it's going to cross x.
Who would you put plus or minus?
Okay, so number 6 I already have worked out here. If you want, you can put your video on pause and take a look at that. That's an example of a no solution where you get a negative under the radical. Okay, number 7, since we have a 5 in front here, we would have to divide everything through by 5 to complete the square. So let's just do quadratic formula. Yes, we're going to do quadratic formula. So that means that a is 5, that's 5x squared. B is 7, we've got 7x, move the 3 back over. C is going to be -3. So a is 5, B is 7, and C is -3. Okay, the quadratic formula, x equals -b, since b is 7, plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is -3, all of that over 2 times a. Okay, if I stick to the discriminant, okay, that's going to give me 49, and negative times negative is positive, so 20 times 3 is 60, and that equals 109. So x equal -7 plus or minus the square root of 109 divided by 10. Okay, 109 is not a perfect square and it will not simplify. So that is the answer. Okay, you have x equal to -7 plus the square root of 109 divided by 10, and x equals -7 minus the square root of 109 divided by 10.